What's up, superheroes? My name's Miles. I work in arts, academics, and allyship. I study truth, love, and humanity, and I'm a real-life superhero. Welcome to my Superhero Toolkit series, where together we're going to explore our superpowers through the lenses of mind, body, and spirit. Let's get started. There are millions of lenses we can use to understand ourselves and the world around us more clearly. There are horoscopes and birth charts, personality profiles, religious commandments, tarot cards, self-help gurus. There are lenses of gender and race and cultural and national identity, biology, chemistry, and physics, frameworks of fantasy and science fiction stories, and even a magic 8-ball. Each of these tools can be useful for self-reflection. They employ different methods and focus on different things. While many of them offer great insight and can give great cues on how to conduct ourselves in the world around us, I find oftentimes too that they're so specialized or they're so intricate that it makes them a little difficult to use in real-world applications. So it got me thinking about a simpler tool, something that could be used by anyone, anywhere, across all of space and time. Does such a thing exist? I don't know, but I do know that I often come back to a particular framework, one that's easily understood and can be applied by anyone of any background. It's a simple metaphysical tool that can offer powerful insights into the most complex aspects of our lives. So as you might have guessed, the framework is mind, body, and spirit. At a glance, it sort of feels maybe too simple. But I got to thinking that these are sort of the three dimensions of existence, right? Mind, spirit, and body. In an upcoming video, we'll be discussing 5 dimensions of our humanity, but for now, I think the 3 will suffice. You may notice that when I said those there, I said them in a different order than we usually hear them. My reason for doing that should become clear momentarily. So I found that virtually anything or any process can be broken down into mind, spirit, and body components. Let's play with these concepts for a minute. The mind is one-dimensional, so it's an expression of singularity. We can think about anything across all of space and time, anywhere, past, present, future, but only one thought at a time. The funny thing about thoughts is that they only have meaning if we assign it to them, and they only have impact if we act on them. Thoughts and ideas are as fleeting as electrons. They pop in and out of existence, just like that. And just like electrons, they have the power to transform the entire world. We've been talking about thoughts and ideas just one at a time. There is such a thing as a collection of ideas, a program of ideas. Now, this program oftentimes is collectively known as a culture, and this cultural programming gives us all kinds of information to choose from as we move our way from one moment to the next. So with this collection of ideas, we move through our world interpreting, interacting, absorbing, reflecting, and refracting the energetic experiences that we have with other people, all through the interpretation or the lens of whatever cultural programming or system that we have in place, sort of like a collection of ideas that we draw on to make sense of the world around us. And it informs a lot of what we perceive about the world around us. So these things are all intertwined, because then once you have a particular perception, then that also means that that can lead to action. And so our ideas may start as something invisible, something fleeting, something singular, something that is powerless. But when we put our energy and our action behind it, now this idea, whether it's true or not, has an impact on the real world around us. Pretty powerful stuff. But like so many things, if we look just at one instance, it sort of prevents us from seeing the bigger picture. And so one thought or one idea in one instance has a particular impact. It's a data point, right? But along multiple instances, as time goes on, now we've got a pattern that emerges, a frequency, if you will. So we talked about the mind, this one-dimensional expression of singularity. Now we're going to talk a little bit about spirit. This is 2 dimensions dealing with duality, polarity. Frequency is something that only happens when there's more than one of something, more than one instance, more than one expression. And now we've got a pattern that can take on its own new set of attributes. There's a new element being introduced into our reality now with frequency. So if spirit navigates duality, good, bad, on, off, pain, pleasure, life, death, the dark side of the force, the light side of the force, yes, no, male, female, expansion, contraction, day and night, and so on. So the nature of the spirit is something that's sort of eternal. The part of us that's constructed out of the frequencies of the very universe that birthed us. Our spirit might be described as our essential self, or the answer to the question, who am I? You might also think of it as the sum total of the experiences that you have of your universe and the imprints that you leave on it during your time here. A lot of times we think about the power of the mind and we think about the power of the body, but it can be a little difficult to get a handle on what the power of the spirit is. Maya Angelou actually has a great quote that illustrates the power of spirit. She says, "People won't remember what you said, and they won't remember what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel." As we explore this a little bit, we can see that spirit involves movement, frequency, and tone. These are all terms we often hear associated with music, and I think that's for good reason. Music is all about vibrations. So for a musical example, let's look at an orchestra performing a piece, right? There's the composer who uses their mind to create the framework of what is to be played. And the conductor is the person who interprets the blueprint of the music and instructs the orchestra on how it's to be played, when, how, with what tone, how loud, how soft. Should it be staccato? Should there be a crescendo here? Because sometimes the notes on the page only give you a basic idea. And yet, when you hear different composers interpreting the same piece of music, you can often hear wild differences in the expression of that piece. And that is the element of spirit. When we talk about spirit, that's what we're talking about. If the composer is the representation of the mind in action, and the conductor is the representation of spirit in action, then what role does the orchestra play? Right, they're the body. And so the body is interesting because the body is obvious. It exists in the three dimensions that we occupy at any given moment, existing within and interacting with the universe on the X, Y, and Z axes. So let's talk about the body a little bit. For instance, from a biological standpoint, the mind or the blueprint, our DNA, right, is assembled upon the right conditions, two people in the right space at the right time doing the right thing, and now the conditions have been met so that a new entity can be formed and emerge, the brand new universe that is you, or me, or any of us, right? And so my body is made up of that data and was made possible by that event, that movement, right? And now here before you, you see a body that is the expression of the energies and the data that came before. Really cool stuff. But this is where I find it gets really interesting. If we're going to talk about the context of the body, we actually are going to have to continue bringing in the mind and the spirit. And part of the reason for this is that in the span of a single human lifetime, the mind rises and rests every day. The spirit lives and evolves across seasons spanning days, weeks, months, or even years. And the body, on a cellular level, experiences life, death, and rebirth over and over again. And through the mechanism of our DNA, our body carries us across numerous cellular lifetimes within a single continuity that we recognize as ourself. With its own wisdom and a permanent place along the edge between you and your universe, the body contains within it the unity of a multidimensional conscious being. What happens on the outside affects the inside, and what happens on the inside affects the outside. It's a feedback loop. And the connections and movements and interactions between them, well, that's where transformation happens. Okay, now we spent a little time exploring mind, spirit, and body. Let's take a look at some of the superpowers they bring to the table. So what's a superpower anyway? Well, the origin of the word super comes from Latin meaning above, and the word power comes from the French word pouvoir, meaning to be able. So from where I'm sitting, superpowers mean our highest abilities. Sometimes we use these superpowers inadvertently or habitually or in a moment of crisis or challenge. But can you do it on command? When our mind, spirit, and body are all aligned, we can call upon our superpowers confidently and creatively, understanding our strengths and our limitations, our intentions and our impact. and our connection to others. Now that we know what superpowers are, let's look a little closer. What are the three base powers of a human being? Well, thoughts are the power of the mind, energy is the power of spirit, and action is the power of the body. So what do these powers look like in real life? For the mind, I think of intelligence and strategy, memory, creativity, and critical thinking. For the spirit, I think of patience, passion, curiosity, resilience, and connection. And body powers are usually a little easier to see. We're thinking of things like strength, flexibility, speed, agility, endurance. To some degree or another, we all possess these abilities. So the question of whether or not they're superpowers is a question of how prominently they're expressed within us. Go ahead and take me for an example. Physically speaking, I consider myself to be pretty tough, moderately athletic, and reasonably strong. If I had any superpower, I think it might be endurance. But there again, I would more likely attribute my physical endurance to my spirit. I find when it comes to matters of the spirit, I have quite prominent abilities. My patience, passion, compassion, and resilience all seem to be more prominent than other things about me. Even my mind, which I work hard to nourish and expand, is really only most notable for my creativity. In other metrics of the mind, I'm just pretty good. Not bad, but not amazing. So I would say that my most prominent superpower is in the area of spirit. I wanted to wrap things up, but before I do, just a few parting thoughts. Nobody is an island. Just like atoms and molecules and cells and trees, we're all constantly interacting with other things in our universe and with each other. We resonate with other vibrations, absorbing, reflecting, or refracting. In turn, we vibrate other things and beings with this energy. And in doing so, we create the conditions for others to interact with, whether we do it intentionally or not. We're all so powerful when you get right down to it. Not unlike a tornado. The motion of the invisible wind, under the right conditions, takes form out of dust and debris. And then it moves along its path, affecting everything and everyone that comes into contact with it. Stay tuned, superheroes. The next stop is the fifth dimension. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I'm on a mission to transform tomorrow into a beautiful place for everyone. If you want to help support my work and my mission, you can become one of my personal heroes and join our Patreon community for Love Corps. Our Love Corps community members enjoy all kinds of different perks, including access to the Vault. The Vault contains streaming and downloadable versions of the latest music and videos from my band, A&M Real Life Superheroes, as well as other exclusive content. Another way you can help support the work we're doing is grab some merchandise. I designed t-shirts, we've got coffee mugs, there's posters, we even have a 500-piece puzzle. And as always, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much to all of my supporters. Let's transform tomorrow together.